not locked in here with you. That's it! You're locked in here with me!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Real Estate Realities with the Rebel Broker. My name's Robert Whitelaw, and I am the Rebel Broker. Licensed real estate broker in the state of California, member of the National Association of Realtors. But please, don't hold that against me. Welcome to another show, folks. I am feeling good. To be honest, that's probably 80% because of the amount of coffee I've had. But here I am nonetheless, ready to chat about things relating to real estate. And I've got an interesting one. This is one that's, everyone has their soapbox issues, right? Someone brings it up. You could be like online at Safeway and someone two people up says something, just utters a word in a sentence, and you're like, I feel the need to share everything I know about this right now with these people. Now, I restrain myself. I'm not the guy who then jumps up. There are circumstances where it might happen. Maybe if the person's not two people away from me in line. I don't know. I seem to recall me doing it at least once on a line at Starbucks, but there was a group conversation vibe happening. It was all very welcoming, very open, very eclectic. So I wasn't that guy. And it actually turned into a lovely conversation where we all sat at the same table and enjoyed our coffee. I believe I had a blueberry scone to go with it, because I like to treat myself right now and then. But of course, none of that has to do with real estate. So let's try to focus. I realize that's my job, so I shall try to focus. We've got an interesting one today that crosses several lines. It's a real estate thing. It's a economy thing. It's an energy self-sufficiency thing. It's all kinds of stuff. It's all kinds of wonderful things mixed together. But it is awesome because it's something this is one of the things I was one of those kids in high school where I took speech and debate. I'm not saying I was necessarily very good at it, or I don't want to say that. I consider myself a halfway decent debater when it comes to talking about things that I'm knowledgeable about. But I had a hard time taking the class and the group seriously because of some of the people in it, which, if those of you, some of you are alumni of Lynbrook High School in San Jose, California, who graduated in the year I graduated. I apologize if you were in speech and debate. I'm not talking specifically about you. I'm talking about everybody else. You were fine. It was everybody else. Anyway, so it was a subject then, right? People have been talking about energy needs forever. The very first article I ever found about how we're reaching peak oil, for instance, right, is like in the late 1800s, where they said, by the year 1905, we're not going to have any more oil, right? So that's, it's an interesting thing. Historically, it's an interesting thing to look at. And again, I'm still not talking about real estate. So let me try to focus. See, that's the coffee. An article came out from CNBC with the headline, "Britain will build its first hydrogen-fueled homes by April, offering public a glimpse of the future." And the most depressing part of this is that it's not coming from the United States. Where is Elon Musk building our hydrogen-powered homes, right? Where are our hydrogen-powered cars? Now, there's a whole long history that if anybody of you want to chat, you know what? We're doing a coffee and real estate live chat this Saturday over at Facebook. Come on over and join me. If you want to talk all things hydrogen and why it's awesome, totally happy to do that. And we can exchange notes and see how we feel about it. Hydrogen, as the kids used to say, the faux shiz. Hydrogen is an awesome and amazing thing for several reasons. One, if you look at the ranking of powerful stuff, right? And gasoline, for instance, super high amount of energy in a compact thing, right? That's why you can put a gallon of gas in your car and drive, well, depending on your car, you know, in my case, and according to the readings this morning, 42.3 miles on that gallon, right? That's cool. That's a lot of energy. That's stored energy that you can use. Hydrogen is higher than gasoline. So if you take the same volume of gas and hydrogen, right, you're going to get way more energy out of hydrogen. Now, that also causes potential problems because hydrogen tends to like to go boom rather than poof, which is a bad thing, i.e. Hindenburgs and all kinds of wonderful stuff. Now, those are just technological challenges, though, right? Gasoline has you know, is high enough energy there that there's absolutely concerns there. Everybody needs to worry. That's a bad thing. But hydrogen is not only awesome because it's hydrogen and its natural things are so awesome. One sentence should make it all clear. Most plentiful substance in the universe. That's right. Hydrogen is the most plentiful substance in the universe. So when I'm creating a checklist of things I would really like to use to power my life, hydrogen's way up there. And then there's the waste products of hydrogen, right? My understanding is, and maybe a scientist in the group can correct me if I'm wrong, but the waste products are purified water and air or something, right? Isn't that it? Isn't that the waste product? So, you know, from a standpoint of what makes the most sense moving forward, hydrogen is a special and magical thing. And here we've got the folks over in the UK embracing it in a residential environment, right? The two big key points that CNBC loves to put at the top of their articles, so you don't have to actually educate yourself and read the article, is the broad idea behind the development is to highlight how hydrogen could eventually replace natural gas, a fossil fuel, in a domestic environment. Described by the International Energy Agency as a versatile energy carrier, hydrogen has a diverse range of applications. It does indeed. Hydrogen has been around, and again, you know, way back in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, hydrogen was the preferred pathway to making cars better. And this is the point where there's contention. Because it just makes sense, right? It got derailed, according to a lot of folks who spend a lot of time in this field, by incentives that were created by the government to promote electrical cars versus hydrogen-powered cars. My understanding is that back in the day when hydrogen was still the thing and there were no handouts for folks who were chasing electrical-powered cars, was Shell Oil was in an agreement with Ford to start installing hydrogen pumps into California gas stations to facilitate a new Ford hydrogen car. And all of that stuff went on the shelf, as I understand it, once this whole incentives to make electric cars became a thing. Okay. And the argument that I get when I talk to people who are informed about these types of things is we would have mainstream hydrogen cars today if there had not been any intervention in that whole thing. Don't know if that's true. And you know what? For the purposes of this argument, I'm not even going to say it's an irrelevant thing. It is another example of the influence of coffee on me and my willingness to go into the weeds. So again, I apologize. But in terms of an application for homes, it is huge. Just to recap a little bit here, I paused. I cheated. Yes, so the waste product of burning hydrogen is water vapor. So that, you know, that's water and air. So I wasn't wrong. But it's also interesting what you can use to create hydrogen. I was doing a really quick rundown here, and there's a variety of different ways. There is natural grass. Yep, you could use grass. Natural gas reforming gasification, electrolysis, renewable liquid reforming, fermentation, high temperature water splitting, photobiological water splitting, photoelectrochemical water splitting. So there's a bunch of different magical ways to create the stuff. And imagine, if you will, and I realize we're talking infrastructure now. Let's say you're a state and you're on the coast and you have not enough water for everybody and not enough electricity for everybody, imagine building a really big building out there near the water where you're using these means to generate hydrogen, create water, right? You're creating a water source, you're desalinating the water, you're creating water for consumption, and then you're handing off hydrogen that goes through a pipe to the building next door that generates electricity for the grid, right? On an industrial scale. So these are all things that are realities that could be embraced. There are, I'll include some links in the description of today's show so you can explore this. Anybody who is not excited about hydrogen as a useful power source, in my opinion, simply has not looked into hydrogen enough. So I'm perfectly willing to entertain there may be opposing opinions. But in terms of what it takes to make the stuff and what it takes to consume the stuff and what we're left when we're done with that process, nothing's better. There is nothing better. You're not going to hurt the world by shooting water vapor out your tailpipe. There's a guy driving a car here in Morgan Hill that has a hydrogen-powered car, and he literally took a cup and put it to his tailpipe, and he says, I will drink this water if you want. And I'm like, hey, you do you, baby, but maybe not. But in any event, there's also huge talk going on right now about actually generating hydrogen electricity as one of the first ways to manage waste. You go to the dump and you take all of that stuff that goes to the dump and you extract hydrogen from it. Okay. Anyway, so I hope that has whet your appetite for more information relating to hydrogen. And it's an easy thing. Just go out and Google just about anything. There's I've got energy.gov has a great layout of all the different ways to produce it, to transport it, and do all these wonderful things with it. So feel free to check that out. But going back to our article, and remember, this is happening in April. That's 2 months away. So this is amazing and awesome and is an indicator of what I think is the future for us. Now, to kind of quote a few bits from this article, UK houses where appliances including boilers, stoves, and ovens are fueled exclusively by hydrogen are due to be opened by April, with authorities hoping the buildings will provide the public with a glimpse into the potential home of the future. Now, of course, they're talking about using it as a replacement for natural gas. Let's see what else here. The amount of money they're investing in it. The broad idea behind the development that the homes have not been designed to be lived in is to highlight how hydrogen could eventually replace natural gas, a fossil fuel, in a domestic environment. To this end, members of the public will be allowed to visit the buildings and see how the hydrogen-fueled appliances function. Unlike natural gas, and I'm quoting now, some person, the government said. So I'm quoting the government in the UK. Unlike natural gas, which is responsible for over 30% of the UK's carbon emissions, hydrogen produces no carbon at the point of use, with the only byproduct being water. And if I'm not mistaken, it's purified water. So you could literally take that waste material, put it into a cistern in your house, consider it your, I don't know if you subscribe to a water service where they bring you bottles every month or so, have a holding tank for that stuff, and that can be your drinking water, is my understanding. Described by the International Energy Agency as a versatile energy carrier, hydrogen has a diverse range of applications that can be deployed in sectors such as industry and transport. Examples of its use in the latter includes trains, airplanes, cars, and buses powered using hydrogen fuel cells. Hydrogen can be generated using electrolysis. We already talked about that real quickly as a list of ways you can generate it, which splits water into oxygen and hydrogen. If the electricity in the process comes from a renewable source, then the end product is dubbed green hydrogen. The hydrogen gas used at the homes in Gateshead will come in bottled form to begin with, although in future, green hydrogen could be used. So imagine the possibilities here. Now, granted, this is just a thing to make you be able to burn stuff in your house. Now, imagine you buy yourself a generator that runs off hydrogen to create electricity. And suddenly you've got, and of course you could do this with gas. I mean, there's generators that run off of natural gas. But it would seem to me that given the higher level of efficiency, that might even be a more beneficial option for you, right? So this is a huge deal. And I'm so glad to see the borders of hydrogen embracement going beyond just, well, maybe we could run cars off of it. The things you can do with hydrogen are amazing. And given what it doesn't do in terms of pollution, how it wasn't the go-to before really never made much sense to me. Usually I like to end these with a what should you do as a buyer, seller, or an investor? Well, there's nothing you can do right now today, but boy, is this something I want you all to keep your eyes on as we run this down. Now, there's also a ending note in this article that references the United States. In a statement at the time, SGN, a firm responsible for the gas network in Scotland and the south of England, described the initiative as 100% hydrogen demonstration network that will bring carbon-free heating and cooking to around 300 homes by the end of 2022. Over here in the United States, still quoting, last December saw the Southern California Gas Company announce plans to build its H2 hydrogen home. In a statement at the time, the firm described the project as a first of its kind for the United States and said it would consist of a home, solar panels, a home battery, an electrolyzer to convert solar energy into clean hydrogen, and a fuel cell to convert that hydrogen back into electricity. So that's awesome. I think that's something very much worth your time. And I'll tell you what, it's funny. I was on the Motley Fool the other day. Fool.com. If those of you use any, advisory websites or anything, if you're considering managing your own investments in the stock market, I'll definitely be looking up the Southern California Gas Company. Granted, it's a utility, but whoever owns the technologies that would feed the H2 hydrogen home, I'm thinking that's a pretty good long-term investment. This is something that could solve an awful lot of the problems that we see here in California. And I think it's a very exciting thing to look forward to in terms of home options in the future. So keep that in mind. Now, as always, the goal here is to leave you with more information on the table than you've invested in time. I hope this has just set a fire in your brain. So I'm not just looking for it to be an informational thing. Oh, no. I'm looking for this to be something that inspires you to find out more about it and become an advocate for it, because I think for all of us, this represents a bright, shiny future for how our homes not only get heated and powered, but also how we make everything happen, how we travel in our cars, how we handle life. And you know what's all of the downsides of electric cars in terms of charging and swapping batteries and having to stop for an hour to get your car charged. This is like pumping gas. You go to a pump, you shove a thing into your car, and your car gets gassed up. Absolutely some technical boundaries to overcome, but man, the payoff would be huge for society. All right, now, and before I say goodbye for today, I want to remind everyone, as I did earlier in today's show, we are doing a coffee and real estate live stream on Facebook this weekend. It's going to be at 10 a.m. Pacific. Head on over to facebook.com/whitelawre/live. If you would like to see more about it, or you want to find out more about it, or just navigate to it, if you just go to Facebook and search on White Law Real Estate, and I think if you search on Rebel Broker, it cross posts to both the Rebel Broker podcast page and also my White Law Real Estate page on Facebook. You'll find it there. You can get a reminder so that you don't miss out. They go for at least an hour. I guarantee 1 hour. If people show up we end up getting into some cool conversations, happy to have it go longer. I usually block out at least another hour after the ending time of 11 to continue the show if needed. I try to leave everything wide open, frankly, until 1. So plenty of time for us to interact, and I'd love to see you there and work with you to answer your questions relating to real estate or talk about hydrogen if you want. All right, folks, thanks again for listening. I will talk to you all next time.